अथ जलभेदः।
Jalabhed, variants of water, accordingly types of speakers. The scripture talks about which kind of speakers should be considered by devotees to gain knowledge about the supreme knowledge, because being lenient in that may result in bad association instead of good association. Just as drinking contaminated water contaminates mind and body, therefore, by example of water, the details of speakers are given. And just like water can drench others, can give coolness, in the same way words of speaker can drench the hearts of listeners with devotion after moistening them. The words of Supreme Lord can give coolness to the mind. According to the words of Shruti, that is Taittiriya Samhita 7.4.12, 20 different kinds of waters have been explained. There has been comparison here of each kind of water as qualities of those different kind of speakers. Here question arises that is it so important to know or analyze the speakers in such detail, even if the speaker is explaining the text of scriptures by all the means? Here principles of Adhar and Adheya gets applied. If one fills the same water, Adheya, in different kinds of pots, Adhar, like copper, gold, silver, rusted iron or soil, due to the different kinds of the pots, the influence in the water in each pot will be different. The body have a different influence of water drank from different pots. Similar, despite being the words of scriptures, only emotions of the heart of speakers will have different impact on the listeners. The discourses of speakers who are attached to sensual, full of material desires and greedy mentality, etc., despite following the scriptures verbatim, the influence of their such effects come in their words, and therefore such effect will leave same impression on the listeners as well. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavat, Adhikar Lila of best, medium and lowest, all these three kinds of speakers or listeners are described. Here too Sri Mahaprabhuji in Jalbhed scriptures describe different kinds of speakers, and in Panchapradyani scripture describe distinction of listeners. In first canto of Srimad Bhagavat, whatever differences are described for speakers and listeners are applicable for Srimad Bhagavat only. Srimad Bhagavat Mahatmya, the rules and regulation for speakers and listeners or for speaking or listening, Srimad Bhagavat are described. But here in Jalbhed and Panchapadhyani, the classification about the best, medium and inferior speakers and the listeners of discourses on glorification of qualities, form, pastimes, etc. of such Supreme Lord is being made. The rules and regulation of the speakers are not required for this purpose. All these norms of Upanayana ceremony, body of Dvij, and those who are not Dvij, etc., are not required to follow the hearing and speaking discourses on glorification of Supreme Lord. But speakers should speak speech of realization, should be attached to Supreme Lord. Inquisitiveness and selfishness, etc., are necessary, and listener, speaker are adorned by knowledge, detachment, and devotion. All these qualities are necessary.
नमस्कृत्य हरिं वक्ष्ये तद्गुणानां विभेदकान् भावान् विंशतिधा भिन्नान् सर्वसन्देहवारकान्.
Verse 1. Having offered obeisances to Supreme Lord Sri Hari, Sri Mahaprabhuji describes 20 kinds of speakers based on their different qualities and expressions, which can remove all the doubts arising in the process of devotional services. The three modes of material nature, that is pure goodness, sattvic, passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas, Sri Mahaprabhuji is explaining 20 different aspects to remove those modes of living entity. Kalyan Rai ji and other commentators have said about the subject of Lord's quality of absolute truth in Tad Gunaganam. Such a conclusion is given just like qualities like Samtavadi, That is, all living entities are the same for the Supreme Lord. Even the Lord is partial to his devotees and desired to listen from the mouth of such devotees. Now Sri Mahaprabhuji depicts 20 such kinds of emotions in accordance with the qualities. Thus, all the doubts about the subject of speaker would be eliminated. In this way, to reach the state of pure goodness, transcending the three modes of material nature, it is necessary to hear the lecture of loving devotees of Supreme Lord.
गुणभेदास्तु तावन्तो यावन्तो हि जले मताः.
Verse 2, line 1. In Krishna Yajurveda, as per the numbers of different class of waters, that many are the different qualities of speakers are being observed. Just like water has qualities, for example, to nourish as extinguisher of heat, purifier of mind and body, etc. After these original qualities, if some external contamination of any kind gets mixed with in that water, then that water can show different effect after being drunk. In the same way, here according to the mood of speaker by his different qualities, using the example of water, he is explaining that this speech, even after having qualities of original scriptures, it can be mixed and with the emotion of speakers.
गायकाः कूपसङ्काशाः गन्धर्वा इति विश्रुताः कूपभेदास्तु यावन्तस्तावन्तस्तेऽपि सम्मताः.
Verse 2, line 2. Verse 3, line 1. Kupaya Bhayat Swaha Taitriya Shruti. The singer is like well, and Gandharvas are famous like that. Whatever different kind of well exists, same number of the different types of singers are assumed. Singing is very much liked by Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, beginning is done from singers and Gandharvas. Initially, speakers are told to be like wells. Some wells is of sweet water and some are of salty water. The well which is on the north side of trees like banyan tree, vata tree, etc. is considered holy. For example, Damodar well of Dwarka, Gop well of VRAJ, etc. All these wells are called holy and of scriptural importance, and some well is with impure and dirty water, and some due to being out of the use are with garbage. In the same way, the voice of singers whose voice only glorifies the Supreme Lord are considered like sweet water which nourishes mind and body. A speaker who only praises such rich personalities or king, they are similar to the salty water of well. The speaker who preaches the importance of Vedic and scriptural teachings only for the spiritual benefit of other entities is said to be similar to the holy well water, that is like described above. The speaker who only preaches for increasing his own fame and livelihood, that speech is similar to the unsacred and dirty water. As well as water is being used, it gets pure day by day. Similarly, the one who constantly keeps on glorifying of Lord, when they speak with their holy experience, is considered a holy speech. Otherwise, the singing skills or art speech are also useless like unused well. As well, water gives coolness in summer and warmness in winter. In similar way, the speech of the scriptural speakers who gives console to the painful and sad people. When there is satisfaction in emotions towards God, then that speech gives excitement in emotions towards God. That speech creates sorrow of Lord, separation, viraha, tap. When one wants to fetch water from well, one needs to go near to the well, and then only he will be able to get the water. Similarly, when one wants to gain knowledge sincerely from the sincere good speaker, then he has to go to the speaker in a devotional manner and then gain knowledge respectfully. Comparing the singer qualities with the water of well and Gandharva, which are expert singers of holy music, also assume some quality differences. Some of Gandharvas are only praise gods, Indra. Some of them praise only particular deity, and some saintly Gandharvas glorify only Supreme Lord through their skills and talent.
कुल्याः पौराणिकाः प्रोक्ताः पारम्पर्ययुता भुवि.
Verse 3, line 2.
Kulyabhya Swaha. The artificial river is famous with the name of Kulya. It is on the land according to the tradition. Just like a canal is carved out of a river, and that water benefits the agricultural fields and villages, etc. But that water is not original flow. Rather, it's a flow that has been created from the river. In the same way, speakers speak from what they have heard from the others, coming in disciple succession, and not the knowledge understood of their own. The speakers on stories of Puran speak after having hearing from storytellers, but they don't have any stable mood of their own in their hearts. While speaking on stories of Puran, sometimes these people may get charged with emotion, and out of that, intense emotions may weep, laugh, etc. But that intense emotion only occurs during the time of lecture because their emotions are not permanent. Such speakers are called attached to the objects of material senses, even though they are not condemnable.
क्षेत्रप्रविष्टास्ते चापि संसारोत्पत्तिहेतवः.
Verse 4, line 1.
Vikarya Bhava Swaha. The water entering the agriculture field is only meant for the progeny of this world. Nik means drain with a little water, which is used in agriculture field, etc. This produces rich grains. Area Kshetra means agricultural fields, and Nik being feministic word, with the union of the field and the Nik, the only world that is riches, grains, etc. created. In the same way, the speakers who are doing lectures on Puranas only for this worldly achievements or fame, but being the emotionless, not applying the order of scriptures in their own life, being told in their own lectures, the listeners of such speakers only obtain rewards like material creation or entanglement. Here in the original words cha and api, referring to speakers told in first line, which are also told to be the material creation that is being directed here. Here, speakers do not have their own original knowledge, just like drains coming out from the canals. The knowledge is coming from the others, and the world uses that too for material creation. These speakers are called condemnable and attached to material sense objects.
वेश्यादिसहिता मत्ता गायका गर्तसंज्ञिताः.
Verse 4, line 2.
Avatya Bhava Swaha. The singers who are associated with the prostitute, etc., and intoxicated with pride, their emotion is like water of a pit. The small flow of water coming out from river, drain, etc., gets converted into pits. The water is said to be impure and dirty. Its drinking only makes one polluted, and it is abominable too. In the same way, the speakers who associate with prostitutes, and in this word adi and is used, which means it includes intoxication, gambling, etc. as well as. So voice of such speaker is like water of such pits, which only pollutes body and mind of the listener. The speaker is condemnable and is attached to material sense objects.
जलार्थमेव गर्तास्तु नीचागानोपजीविनः.
Verse 5, line 1.
Khanyabhyayaha Swaha. The emotion of singers and speakers who are earning their livelihood via feelings of singing are and like leftover water. The water collected in the pit dug outside the home after washing the pots, etc. There is no question of drinking of that water, wastewater of the house, but even touching of that water is prohibited. In this way, hearing from the mouth of the speakers who are doing lectures, Srimad Bhagavatam, or any other Pushti Margiya scriptures by quoting materialistic figures only just for feeding the stomach livelihood, listening from such speakers is much detrimental. The mood of each speaker is condemnable and attached to the material sense objects.
हृदास्तु पण्डिताः प्रोक्ताः भगवच्छास्त्रतत्पराः.
Verse 5, line 2.
Hridayabhya Swaha. The learned speaker, readily expert in scriptures related to Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, are called the mood of big ponds. Hridaya means a big pond carved out of the river or created by natural way. Its water is clean and cool. It does not get dirty even after the animals like buffalo sit in therein. In the same way, the voice of learned people with large and deep knowledge soothes the living entities burning in this material world, and they themselves stay cool. Thus, these speakers are ready to learn and understand the nuances of the scriptures like Bhagavad and mold their lives accordingly. Therefore, the emotion of learned people who shows suspicion and do unnecessary arguments against scriptures could not make those speakers filthy. Just as big animals like buffalo could not make water of the big ponds dirty. Such speakers are said to be in the mood of speakers who are seekers of salvation through the path of action.
सन्देहवारकास्तत्र सूदा गम्भीरमानसाः.
Verse 6, line 1.
Sudabhya Swaha. The speaker who destroys doubt, stable and of sincere mind, is of the mood of the speaker like lake of a pure water. Suddh means lake filled with clean stationary water. Such water gives pleasure just by its vision and gives coolness to whoever drinks it. Similarly, these speakers have digested the knowledge of scriptures, are of serious nature and stable mind. They give pleasure to all the audience, whoever comes in their touch. They make everyone calm by solving their doubts without any disturbance. Such speakers are said to be in the mood of speakers who are seekers of salvation through the path of action.
सरः कमलसम्पूर्णाः प्रेमयुक्तास्तथा बुधाः.
Verse 6, line 2.
Sarasyabhya Swaha. The mood of loving and knowledgeable speakers is like a lake filled with the lotus flowers. The speakers are like the water of the lake, full of beautiful lotus flowers, who are full of love and intelligence, means full of devotion and knowledge. Due to the presence of water in lake, the water becomes perfumed and full of sounds of bumblebees. Birds like swans and cranes also drink water from such lakes. Similarly, speakers like that of the lake, due to speaking words lest with the knowledge and love, means speaking words with scriptures, proofs and references. They are always surrounded with the speakers who glorify the Supreme Lord, like bees, listeners, and the learned people. The mood of listeners in the mode of goodness is like swans and cranes are nourished by such speakers, and such speakers are always embellished with such listeners, just as such lakes are embellished with swans and cranes, etc. By the words of such speakers, the lotus of devotion in the mind gets blossomed. Such speakers are said to be in the mood of speakers who are seeking salvation through the path of action.
अल्पश्रुतः प्रेमयुक्ताः वेशन्तः परिकीर्तिताः.
Verse 7, line 1.
Vaishantibhya Swaha. The mood of loving speaker, but with little knowledge, is like water of a small pond. Small pond with less water is called Vaishantaha. Due to the small quantity of water, that pond gets polluted quickly by animals like buffalo. In the same way, due to the little knowledge of these speakers, have less exposure of hearing of scriptures. They are loving, but due to absence of understanding of knowledge of importance of Supreme Lord, they are affected by bad association of people doing unnecessary arguments. The worth of such speakers are not very much beneficial for the listeners. Such speakers are said to be seekers of salvation through the path of action.
कर्म शुद्धः पल्वलानि तथाल्पश्रुत भक्तयः.
Verse 7, line 2.
Palvalabhyah swaha. Pure in their action, but with no scriptural study, who have little devotion. Such emotions are like very small pond known as palvalya. Palvalya means very small pond which has less water and more dirt. Because of more dirt, it becomes more especially dirty, being the residing place of animals like hogs. By the rain water or by other means of, if this very small pot gets clean, but due to being small in quantity, it gets quickly polluted by animals. Similarly, the speakers who do purification process by Vedic rituals, but due to limited knowledge and devotion, their mood gets quickly polluted by atheists and malicious people. They do not obtain much from Vedic rituals as they were done for fulfillment of some desire rather than offering to Supreme Lord. The words of such speakers are not beneficial. Such speakers are said to be seekers of salvation through the path of action.
योगध्यानादि संयुक्ता गुणावर्ष्यः प्रकीर्तिताः.
Verse 8, line 1.
Varshabhya Swaha. The mood of speakers connected with yoga and meditation is famous like water of rain. The speakers who glorifies the Supreme Personality while practicing eightfold yoga, meditation, etc., they are famous like water of rain. The qualities of rainwater are same, and that water falls on everyone equally without any discrimination. But even then, that water accepts the quality of receptacle wherever it falls. It falls in river, then it cleans, and it falls in drain, then it is like that. In the same way, these speakers are mostly introverts due to following the yoga like yama, niyama, and dhyana, etc. And they, in addition to their personal cultivation of meditation, etc., sing glorification of Supreme Personality. But the listeners accept those words according to their own eligibility, and sometimes the speaker also accepts their listeners' qualities like river and drain, just as the benefit of rainwater is not available all throughout the year. Similarly, these speakers are also introvert and remain engaged in cultivation of yoga and meditation. Whenever they come out of such position, only then the listeners can take the benefit of the words of such speakers according to their own eligibility. Just as if the rainwater falls on agricultural field, then it gets filled with rich grains. In the same way, the audiences with a little eligibility gets knowledge like glorification of Supreme Lord and eightfold yoga by taking full benefit of such speakers, and among them selfish and lower class listeners earns their livelihood, money and fame by learning eightfold yoga, etc. This is called obtaining fruit like dirty water lying in the dirty place. Such speakers are said to be seekers of salvation through the path of knowledge, that is Jnana Marga.
तपोज्ञानादि भावेन स्वेदजास्तु प्रकीर्तिताः.
Verse 8, line 2.
Sweda Jhabhya Swaha. The voice of speakers who are full of austerity and knowledge, etc., but devoid of devotion is known to be the water of sweat. People believing that salvation can be achieved by sitting in painted fire, by controlling senses very strictly, by austerity, etc., or people executing fruitive action by following Varnashram Dharma and knowledge action, etc., told in Vedas, it should be said that they, despite doing so much hard work, could not know the crux of the scriptures of Vedas, because Supreme Lord can be only obtained by selfless loving devotional service. The result of fruitive action finishes with the body. Then action of speaker cultivating difficult practices, as told above, will only be called obtaining drop of sweat due to hard labor and nothing more than that, because that result is meaningless, as the drop of sweat is useless, beneficial neither for self nor for others. Therefore, voice of such devotion less but working hard based on knowledge of austerity is useless for listeners. Such speakers are said to be seekers of salvation through the path of knowledge, that is Jnanamarg.
अलौकिकेन ज्ञानेन ये तु प्रोक्ता हरेर्गुणाः कादाचित् कः शब्दगम्याः पतच्छब्दः प्रकीर्तिताः.
Verse 9.
Yadunya bhyaha swaha. The speaker having transcendental knowledge perform glorification of Supreme Lord Sri Hari with devotion. Those are especially called like waterfalls, and which becomes visible anytime or comes downwards from above when detected by the voice, like water falling from mountains or water of waterfalls, which is despite being clean, cool, sweet, etc., it is even attractive to mind, pleasure giving and remover of listening, vision, touch and bath, ablution, etc. In the same way, owing to the mercy of some devotee or mercy of Supreme Lord himself, or due to past impressions, if a speaker himself gets transcendental knowledge of divine and sweet qualities of Supreme Lord and have transcendental realization of those divine knowledge, the result of hearing glorification of Supreme Lord through the mouth of such a speaker is as pleasurable as reaching near a beautiful waterfall. And by those words, the listeners can do all realization as told above. Just as the waterfall are not always available, normally in rainy season they become visible, and such waterfalls are not available always and everywhere. These waterfalls are available seldomly. Similarly, such speakers are seldom, just as by hearing sweet sound of waterfall, one can figure out that a waterfall is nearby. Similarly, even if one has not seen the such devotee speakers, but one can decide their transcendental realizations just be hearing their words, their scriptures, their poetry, or their fame, etc. And by associating with them and hearing their transcendental knowledge of qualities of Supreme Lord, Sri Hari is very pleasurable. Their transcendental voice is destroyer of miseries and is sweet, cool and clean like the waterfall. Such speakers are said to be in mood of seekers of salvation through the path of knowledge.
देवाद्युपासनोद्भूताः पृष्ट्वा भूमेरिवोद्गताः.
Verse 10, line 1.
Prishvabhyaha swaha. The mood of speaker is like drops of dew appeared on the earth who are engaged on worship of deities. The very part of the fruitative worship, the deities described in Puranas or in scriptures of oral traditions like Varun, Indra, Durga, Ganapati, etc., are described in Vedas. Therefore, consider the mood of speaker as drop of dew who do lectures on the pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, along with worshipping paternal ancestors known as Pitru, 9 planets known as Navagraha, etc. The drop of dew, when it appears, looks very beautiful and attractive, but they are only for a very limited time or momentary. They can't be used in any of the following: drinking, ablution, getting coolness, purification, etc. The drops of the dew dry up as soon as sun signs appear, and similar, the words of such speakers are useless for self and listeners. The words of such speakers look attractive in the beginning, but it is of no use in attaining salvation. The result of such worship of deities or paternal ancestors are momentary and completely useless for devotion. This mood is of speakers seeking salvation through the path of worship.
साधनादि प्रकारेण नवधा भक्ति मार्गतः
प्रेम पूर्त्या स्फुरधर्माः स्यन्दमानाः प्रकीर्तिताः.
Verse 10, line 2. Verse 11, line 1.
Syandamanaha Vyaha Swaha. Such speakers, by process of cultivation of ninefold process of devotion, come into path of devotion and lovingly goes from process of cultivation towards loving devotional service of Supreme Lord. Such speakers are said to be like waterfalls falling from mountains or rivers. The mood of speakers coming from the path of regulations to path of loving devotional service keeps on going up and down. At times too much intense devotion and at times dryness is seen in their emotion. Just as the water falling from a mountain sees up and down in a mood of water falling according to the rainfall, and sometimes those waterfalls get fully dried up. On mountain, many small falls gather together, and on slope they become a big water flow or flow of a river. Similarly, while cultivating different means, when their feelings gets increased, then they get connected with part of devotion. These speakers are said to be seekers of salvation through the path of worship, upasana marg.
यादृशास्तादृशाः प्रोक्ताः वृद्धिक्षयविवर्जिताः स्थावरास्ते समाख्याताः मर्यादैकप्रतिष्ठिताः.
Verse 11, line 2 and verse 12, line 1.
Sthavarasabhya swaha. These speakers described above who are following process of ninefold devotion service, but their feelings are not keep on going up and down. Feelings of such speakers are here told to be like a water body with constant supply of water, and acceptance of such speaker in the path of regulation is sure. Water body or a river with constant supply of water are those where increase or decrease in water levels is not happening. Such speakers are full of feelings and their feelings are permanent, but being on the path of the cultivation, they are accepted on path of regulations. These speakers are said to be seekers of salvation through the path of worship. Upasana marg.
अनेक जन्म संसिद्धा जन्म प्रभृति सर्वदा संगादिगुणदोषाभ्यां वृद्धिक्षययुता भुवि निरन्तरोद्गमयुता नद्यस्ते परिकीर्तिताः.
Verse 12, line 2, verse 13. Nadebhyaha swaha.
The speakers who from many lifetimes by glorifying the Supreme Lord has obtained a nice perfection in life, and they keeps on getting birth on this planet Earth, and due to good and bad association etc., due to influence of qualities and faults of others, their feelings for devotional service keep on increasing and decreasing, but due to continuous appearance of feelings, such speakers are said to be like rivers. Just as river keeps on flowing continuously, but due to weather cycle, in rainy or summer, the water level keeps on changing. If its flow remains continuous, then it moves towards the ocean and ultimately meets the ocean. Similarly, the speakers, owing to good past deeds of the previous births, might have obtained some nice perfection, but due to the association and influence of good bad qualities of those association, their feelings of devotion keeps on changing, that is, sometimes increases, sometimes decreases. Association of pure devotees increases their feelings of devotion, but bad association of someone doing unnecessary arguments, their feelings of devotion goes down and getting birth on this planet Earth again and again, but due to continuous flow of love of Supreme Personality of Godhead, their movement remains towards the Lord only just as a movement of the river towards sea. Such speakers are said to be the seekers of salvation through the path of worship.
एतादृशाः स्वतन्त्राश्चेत् सिन्धवः परिकीर्तिताः.
Verse 14, line 1.
Sindhabhyavibhyaha swaha. Speakers like the rivers flowing towards the sea as told above, but these are free from fault of association, are called great river like Sindhu, sea. In speakers told in previous verse, good or bad qualities keeps on manifesting due to the association, just as due to the weather cycle, the water level keeps on changing. But here big river like Sindhu is told which don't have any impact of weather cycle and keeps flowing continuously. Owing to its heavy flow, obstacles like stones, rocks, or mountains cannot obstruct its flow, and it always meets the ocean. And in its large quantity, it makes the living creature, its shelter also meet the sea. Similarly, these speakers being full of knowledge and devotion, the coverings of the good bad association can't prevent his feelings. Those feelings, anyways, flow towards the Supreme Lord because his flow of devotion can't be prevented by situation of happiness, distress of this material world. Just as because of river, the living creatures of the water of that river meets the ocean. Similarly, such speakers can make devotees associated with them to meet the Supreme Lord. Such speakers are said to be the seekers of salvation through the path of devotion.
पूर्णा भगवदीयाये शेषव्यासाग्निमारुताः जडनारदमैत्राद्यास् ते समुद्राः प्रकीर्तिताः.
Verse 14, line 2, verse 15, line 1.
Samudriya Bhyaha Swaha. Shesh Vyas, fire god, Agnidev, Marut, Jad Bharat, Narad, Maitri, Adi, means Uddhavji, etc. All these are called complete devotees, and they are called the ocean. The world of complete devotees are compared with sea because even after being filled with water fully, sea never spills, it never breaches its boundaries. Since it is filled with large quantity of water, it nourishes big aquatics and produces so many jewels. Seeing the moon, the sea becomes happy and jovial. The complete moon brings tide in the sea. In the same way, such speakers who has detailed knowledge and who are devotees with full devotion, they don't spill despite vastness in their feelings of devotion and completeness in their knowledge and devotion. Don't breach the boundary of scripture. Despite being patient and serious, they become jovial, seeing their moon-like face of Supreme Lord, and just like by moon tides appear in the sea, tides of feeling appear in them. They also nourish the feelings of many living entities, as done by sea for aquatics, and by their high quality nourishment of feelings, sometimes jewel-like devotees gets prepared. Just as cloud gets created from water of sea, and then through rain falling as sweet water, it nourishes the earth. Similarly, through nourishment of devotional feelings by this sea, like advanced devotees, the devotion of other devotees also gets nourished, and then those devotees also by their devotional feelings, by glorification of Supreme Lord, etc., nourish many living entities on the earth's planet. Rain of their devotional feelings falls on many living entities, and such cycle continues, just as by the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., of Shri VRAJ, many other learned devotees gets nourished, and they also continuously till today nourishing the devotional mood of many others by their preaching. Similarly, the continuous cycle of words of Naradji, Uddhavji, Maitri, Shesh, Vyas, Agni, Marut, Jadbharat, etc. keeps going on the earth. Cloud from sea, rain from cloud, and rain to sea. This is the cycle. Therefore, devotional feelings of such advanced devotees only has been compared with water of sea.
लोकवेद गुणैर्मिश्र भावेनैके हरेर्गुणान्
वर्णयन्ति समुद्रास्ते क्षाराद्याः षट्प्रकीर्तिताः.
Verse 15, line 2, verse 16, line 1.
This speaker is called Salty Sea, who describes the qualities of Sri Hari mixing with material qualities or mixing with Veda qualities or mixing with mixture of material and Vedic qualities. The feeling of such speaker are many types. 6 kinds of seas are described in scriptures. One is Salty Sea. The speaker who does not consider incarnation of Supreme Lord like Sri Ram or Sri Krishna as incarnation of Supreme Lord, but just superhumans, has a feeling like that of a water of a salting sea. The salty sea, despite being full of water, could not quench anyone's thirst. Such speakers who put forward explanation of character of Lord Incarnation as equivalent to a human, howsoever beautiful or detailed their explanations may be, but such narrations are of no interest for the devotees. The thirst of the devotees will never be quenched by such words. Second is sea of sugarcane juice. The speakers who consider the super soul to have supernatural and transcendental qualities, but assumes the incarnation of Supreme Lord to have material and ordinary qualities, has feelings like that water of a taste of sugarcane juice. The sugarcane is sweet and full of juice in the starting, while sucking it becomes tasteless and free of juice after some time. Similarly, words of such speaker about Brahma is in starting looks full of mellows, but the description of pastime of incarnation appears tasteless and free of any mallows. The third is sea of alcohol. Consider the Supreme Lord without any qualities, without any shape, and without any nature, and consider qualities of Supreme Lord as of illusion. Supreme Lord is actor under the influence of qualities of illusionary potency, otherwise not. The words of such speaker describing Mayabad is said to be like alcohol, which not only causes material attachment, illusion in the speaker, but also in the listener. Fourth, slee of clarified butter. The Supreme Lord is so kind and merciful that He rewards salvation to the surrendered living entities without seeing their faults or offenses. The word of speakers describing such glorification of Supreme Lord is sweet, tasty, and nourishing for devotion, like taste of ghee, clarified butter. These words increases the spiritual force of living entities in emergency situations by knowing the qualities of merciful and kind Supreme Lord. Just like by eating ghee, the body gets nourishment. Similarly, hearing these words, the mind, devotion, and spiritual strength gets nourished by listener. 5. Sea of milk. Lord Shri Hari is omniscient, omnipotent, supreme controller and doer kartum, non-doer akartum, and other doer anyatha kartum, full capable of doing anything, distress remover and merciful. The speaker who speak of Srimad Bhagavatam, stressing such qualities of Supreme Lord, hearing from such speaker is doing ablution through the milk. Just like milk is sweet, tasty, pure, in the mood of goodness and strength booster, similarly speech of such speaker is sweet, spiritual strength booster, nourishing feeling of devotion and purified mind. A sea of curd. The speaker who lectures about the character of incarnations of Supreme Lord with the intention to only establish the principle of Vedic rules and regulations from which butter of mellows of pastimes of incarnation of Supreme Lord has got eliminated. The buttermilk of curd, though very tasty and good for digestion, but butter like tasty summary is not there. Similarly, such speech of principles which does not contain description of mellows of pastimes of Supreme Lord becomes meaningless or mellowless.
गुणातीततया शुद्धान् सच्चिदानन्दरूपिणः सर्वानेव गुणान् विष्णोर्वर्णयन्ति विचक्षणाः ते मृतोदः समाख्यातास्तद्वाक्पानं सुदुर्लभम्.
Verse 16, line 2, verse 17.
Consider the Supreme Lord transcendental to modes of material nature, pure devoid of illusion and form of eternity, complete knowledge and complete bliss, and that intelligent speaker describes all the qualities of Lord Vishnu as it is. Such a speech is called a sea of nectar. Hearing such speech is very scarce. The excellent speakers like Vyasaji, Sukadevji, Naradji, etc., who has real knowledge about the glories of Supreme Lord, mysteries of incarnation, pastime, and form of Lord beyond world and Vedas, Lord Vishnu is described as devoid of illusionary qualities, pure and divine form. Here Lord Vishnu is said in the meaning of a comprehensive Brahma, the presiding deity of mode of goodness, Lord Vishnu is just a form of a power of Lord. The rare speakers are like sea of nectar who do hearing and glorification of all the description of transcendental divine pure eternal knowledge and blissful form and qualities of comprehensive Brahma. Finding a sea of nectar is very rare, but even a single drop of nectar towards immortality, it is very rare to receive and completely understand the speech of such speakers, which is full of devotional feelings with the knowledge of complete glories of Supreme Lord. Even then, understanding their speech fulfills the work of living entity due to the getting as it is knowledge of Lord Vishnu and obtaining love for him, just as a single drop of nectar rewards immortality.
तादृशानां क्वचित् वाक्यं दूतानामिव वर्णितम् अजामिलाकर्णनवत् बिन्दुपानं प्रकीर्तितम् रागाज्ञानादिभावानां सर्वथा नाशनं यदा तदा लेहनमित्युक्तम् स्वानन्दोद्गमकारणम्.
Verse 18, verse 19.
Parts of sentences from such people, Shesha, Vyasa, etc., sometimes work like the emissary of Lord Vishnu. Ajamil had heard some words of Lord Vishnu, emissary, and that became drinking of nectar for him because the mind of Ajamil has got miraculously changed by that small nectar. These drinking of drops are not fully satisfying, but they are at least delightful and totally fruitive like Ajamil, when by continuous listening of such nectar like speech, by that nectar attachment, illusions, material desires, anger, etc., feeling, mental disorder gets cured. Then one must understand that as licking of nectar, ruminate rather than drinking of nectar. By such licking of nectar, the bliss gets manifested and then the listener shall become successful.
उद्धृतोदकवत् सर्वे पतितोदकवत् तथा उक्तातिरिक्तवाक्यानि फलं चापि तथा ततः.
Verse 20.
Sarvabhya swaha. All this water, except the water from sea of nectar told above, all other waters are called like either water fallen from above or water filled and brought from the step well or a pond gives reward according to the words spoken by the speakers. Except the water from sea of nectar told above, all other waters are called like waterfall fallen from the above and water filled and brought from the step well or a pond. Therefore, water can only be received according to the capacity of the vessel, and effect of vessel can be mixed in the original water. In this way, the speakers speak the words heard from the other speech, that is, can describe only up to the extent according to their qualification. One has heard, and the feeling of the heart of that speaker gets mixed in his speech, effect of vessel, and respective kinds of reward will be received by the listener. Water falling from the above or water brought by filling in vessel can be generally used for cleaning the body, but unlike the sea nectar, one can't drench in it. Similarly, by such speech, possibly mind and heart gets purified, but reward of drenching in the mellow of Supreme Lord or reaching stage of self-bliss can't be obtained.
इति जीवेन्द्रियगता नानाभावं गता भुवि रूपतः फलतश्चैव गुणा विष्णोर्निरूपिताः.
Verse 21. In this way, due to the different feelings, living in essences of living entity, understanding different qualities and form of Lord Vishnu, expressed the subject of differences in reward received by different living entities. In the conclusion of this scripture, Sri Vallabhacharyaji is ordering that original water is only pure and pious, but according to different vessels, According to shapes of vessel, it takes different shapes, and the qualities of such vessels enter the water, and drinking of such water exhibits different effects. Similarly, Lord Vishnu is only single purest element, but in the speech of different speakers, the water compared as Vishnu fall and accordingly to different feelings of senses of speaker due to difference of vessels. The different form of Lord Vishnu and different qualities of Lord Vishnu has been expressed on this earth planet, and according to their different moods, different rewards has been obtained by the listeners. In this way, in these scriptures, through the difference of water, the difference of speech of speakers, feelings and rewards are explained by him. Thus ends Jalabhed prepared by Sri Vallabhacharya.